What is up, Tampa Bay? Happy to be with you guys this evening. Welcome back to another Tampa Bay Q&A, where I'm joined with my hostess, with the mostest, Miss Stacey Amon. What's going on, Stacey?
Good evening. Nothing much. It's just another Taco Tuesday.
It is another Taco Tuesday. Those are the best days. We love being with you guys on Tuesday nights. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. The thing we would like you to know is we set this up to be an interactive evening. This is not broadcast style where we're, have a whole bunch of curated content, dusted up by fancy editing. We're here to engage with you, the audience, and we're happy to answer questions in real time about living here in Tampa Bay. So don't hesitate to leave a comment or a question in the chat. We encourage that. Definitely got some cool news to get into tonight. Stacey, there was an article that just came out this past week from Redfin discussing how Tampa Bay has had a reduction in migration of over 70%. And people were like freaking out. And of course, you know me, trust in God, all others must bring data. So, like people are like, oh, I knew it. People aren't moving to Florida anymore. And no, that's not the truth. Spoiler alert. We're going to get into the details though, because I think this is an important conversation to have. And we should discuss why things are changing, right? Is this the new normal? Is this something that we need to be concerned about? Let's talk about it tonight, right? Like, let's look at the data together as a community here and figure out whether we think this is a problem or if this is just where we currently are. So happy to get into that. Stacey's going to be talking about Paris, Florida tonight. They got some booming things happening down there, and she wants to get into some details with y'all. So we're excited to bring that to you as well. So make sure you stick around. But first and foremost, I encourage you to let us know where you're watching from. We love to say hello to all of our viewers, like Miss Danielle here. Good evening. Happy Tuesday to you as well. Carol says, good evening. Good evening to you, Miss Carol. Good to see you too. Love that. We got Jane in the house. Jane's coming in from San Diego, by the way. Yes, I do know that now. So put that in my back pocket. Got that in my back pocket. And we encourage you guys to connect with us. Again, if you got questions, comments, just put them in the chat. We're happy to get to them as we go along on the evening here. And I'm excited to be with you guys. Shout out to our viewers over on Instagram as well, who are the only people we can't get piped into the live stream directly. We broadcast to them separately, but happy to be with them as well. Good evening, Nick. He says, hello from Colorado. My man, good to see you. You guys getting some nice weather out there yet? It could still be snowing out there, Stacey. So it's definitely a little bit wild when it comes to out west. You just never know what you're going to get. Okay, so let's get into the topic du jour, if you will. Definitely wanted to get into this article here because this was all over our local news here in Tampa Bay, and we've got homeowners here who are considering selling that were like, Juan, what do we need to do? We're scared to death, and all this news about the market, and I understand, totally understand. But what I'll say is, let's take a deep breath. As a community, let's take a step back and let's look at what the numbers have to say. The big thing I will share about this as we get rolling is before we get any numbers whatsoever, y'all, just remember the numbers that we're comparing ourselves against now are COVID numbers, where they called it the Great Migration, didn't they, Stacey?
Yes, they did.
Literally, everybody was working from home. They were able to move anywhere they wanted in the country. And that literally was end of 2020, 2021, into 2022, full swing. And then it started to shift back into 2023. I don't know if y'all remember that. They started returning people to work. And then we saw that migration start to slow down because it was wild here. Right? Tampa Bay, Florida in general, it was nuts. But that was not normal prior to the pandemic, right? There was a rhythm to migration. And, you got that. You're stacking on government challenges right now. And I'm not into playing the political side, but the reality is, we've got less Canadians visiting Florida this winter because people are angry. Right. And that's just that's the truth of it. So you've got this mix of a couple things going on, but I want to get into those numbers and share it with you. with y'all and kind of get in the weeds here a little bit. Nick responded to the weather thing, so let's make sure we touch on that. He said, just got some snow earlier this week, but it's in the 60s today. Should be the last of the snow. Well, we'll pray for you, my friend. Unless you like anything, you know, that's okay too. But definitely, yeah, out west. Like I said, Stacy's wild out there, right?
I know. I can't imagine it being almost May and it snowing. Like,
yeah, it can get cool, especially like where you are in the mountains. And we used to go and stay in Manitou Springs, right by Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak. And in the summer, in the middle of the summer, we go right around 4th of July, and it would be 70s, 80 degrees during the day because you were on the side of the mountains, but it would get down into like high 30s at night. It was wild. It was wild. I remember being out there. It's crazy. Corey, what's up? Good evening, sir. He says, hi, y'all. Corey from C-Bus. We'll be down there May 21st to the 25th. Juan, maybe we'll get together for a burger and a beer if you have time. I'll hit you up when I get there at Lobo. I'm mowed today. Congratulations, you guys cutting the grass in Ohio. That's awesome. I love that. Abby says, hello from the cooks. We are multitasking tonight, packing, staging a house while we watch. Well, happy Taco Tuesday to you too. Love that. Brian sent me a great message yesterday. We'll get into this later. We're making a meme out of Brian's Instagram message that he sent me. Abby, I'll tag you guys in it later this week because it was so good. To come, I'll make sure that we share that with everybody. But let's get back in this article. All right, so this article came out and it was all over the news. Tampa Bay News 9, like all the channels, Stacy. People were losing their mind. I got a phone call from a couple people who were considering selling and like, Juan, what should we do? Great question, first and foremost. Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. So I want to make sure I get into that. And as I always say, trust God, all others must bring data, right? So as we look at this, Redfin reports Florida and Texas are gaining residents. So before we get into the weeds of jumping off buildings, they are gaining residents at a much slower rate than they used to. Eating into home buyer demand. All right, so let's get in. Let's talk about what's going on here. So they get into the numbers here, and Tampa was on the top of this list here as they were going through the chart. They said the flow of U.S. residents moving to Tampa or moving to Florida, Texas, and other parts of the Sun Belt slowed significantly during 2024, according to a new report from Redfin, the technology-powered real estate brokerage. Tampa had a net inflow of just over 10,000 residents in 2024, less than 1/3 of the 35,000 person net inflow in the year before, marking the biggest slowdown in domestic migration of all the 50 most populous U.S. metros. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Gloom and doom, right? However, let's get into the reality of this. Now, people have been asking us for a while, Stacy, are people still moving there? Okay, are people still moving there? And again, 10,000 residents moved to Tampa last year alone. That's a lot, y'all. 10,000 residents. Let's just say for the sake of conversation that's 2,500 new homes necessary just to house the people that moved in, right? 1/4 of that, because they're not all single individuals, right? There's families and things like that too. That's 2,500 new homes that are necessary for that to happen. So that's something to take note of. All right, Dallas saw the next biggest slowdown with a net inflow of roughly 13,000 residents in 2024, down from 35,000 residents the year before. Next comes Atlanta with an outflow of nearly 2,000. So Atlanta lost population for the first time in a while. So this is something to take note of. And as you come down the list here, you'll see this, okay? The 10 metro areas where net migration fell the most in 2024. Tampa was down 24,000. This is new inflow, but we still netted 10,000. 10.5 is what we netted, okay? Dallas was down 22,000 from the year before, but they still netted almost 13,000 new individuals, okay? Atlanta lost 18,000 from the year before, and they were down 1,800 in terms of net inflow. So when you look at these numbers, there's some pretty big numbers. This one was the big one to me, Stacy. Look at this. Miami was down 16,000 from the year before, and they lost 67,000 residents last year. That's a big number, y'all.
That is big.
That's a big number. So to me, like when you're looking at this list and seeing what's popping out to you, like that's a big number, Fort Lauderdale. And these are some of the most expensive real estate markets in the United States, by the way. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, those areas down there. But the condo crisis is like top of the list there, right? It's a huge problem in the Southeast Florida and South Florida in general. We have a condo issue in the state of Florida. We've discussed this many times. Unless you can pay cash for it and that's your dream, now's not the time. That's what we tell our clients. But we still have clients that buy beachfront condos because that's their dream and that's the way they want to go out. And God bless them. And they got the resources to do it. But you're having mortgage issues, insurance issues. There's all kinds of challenges there. All right. So why, right? Let's get into the why that Redfin is saying this, right? First of all, they're saying the rising cost of living. Places like Tampa and Austin were once seen as affordable alternatives to high-cost cities like San Francisco and New York, but now the gap of housing cost between big city job centers and Sun Belt metros has shrunk. That is true. We're still much more affordable than San Francisco or New York. We've done these in real time, and I always share this tool with everybody. There's a cost of living calculator on the Forbes website. If you go to Forbes cost of living calculator, it's an awesome tool. You put in your salary, where you currently live, and then where you would like to move to, and it'll give you a pretty fair representation of how much money you need to earn to keep the same lifestyle. It's a wonderful tool. All right. So that's a great thing to keep track of. We are still, again, if you look at the cost of living in Tampa versus the United States, we're at the same level, but just like everywhere else, things have gotten expensive and our real estate definitely has gotten expensive, right? So the next thing on their list was natural disasters, high insurance costs, making it less appealing to live in Florida. Now there's truth here. Okay. Again, if you want to live on the coast, and I mean, like if you're a beach baby and you want to have your house planted on a barrier island, staring at the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean, I got news for you. You need to have some bucks in your back pocket. Right, Stacy?
You got some what?
Some bucks. You got to have some pull out the Benjamins, right? Right? Like it is not going to be cheap, period. Even if you have a beautiful new home built on stilts, your cost of insurance is going to be very expensive. And just know that's the reality. And that's coastal living in the United States. That is not unique to Florida. That's unique to coastal living in the United States. Anywhere up the East Coast, you go out to the West Coast. Stacey, how many conversations have we had with people in San Diego, Los Angeles, right? Like cost of living is outrageous in those places compared to where we are. They can still cash out and pay cash for a home here. So, but it is true. Now, as you move inland into areas like West Chase and Wesley Chapel and Fishhawk, if you buy a new piece of real estate, your insurance is nominal, right? There has been many conversations we've had over the last year. People are like, well, I'm paying less. I'm paying more than that now on my homeowner's insurance, or I pay more than that now on my property taxes. So this is something to take note of. In office work, and this is the one we were talking about, Stacey, right? This return to work mandate that a lot of companies have taken where people aren't free to roam the country, right? Like I remember in 2020, 21, 22, every time I would get a new Zoom call when somebody would schedule a call with me, like you guys remember the Southwest commercials when it would like, we would hit the airplane bell. They're like, boop, you are now free to roam around the country. And I remember like, that's what was playing in my mind as everybody was just moving everywhere during the Great Migration. They're like, well, we were going to retire in 3 years. Let's just go ahead and pull it ahead and do it now. Right? We saw a lot of that, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Saw a ton of it. So that's another thing that they're citing in this this article. Competition from more affordable places. Now, this is interesting. People are choosing to move to areas like in the Midwest where you can still buy homes in that $200,000 to $300,000 price point for sure, right? And this is more out of necessity because affordability is a crisis in the United States. Period. Housing affordability. So people are looking for those areas like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Detroit. You look at their home prices, they've grown tremendously, but they're still what I would consider very affordable compared to a lot of the Sun Belt, a lot of the coastal regions in the United States. So keep that in mind. And then the high cost of moving and economic uncertainty, right? So this is another thing that they believe is playing into this. The, cost of everything is expensive. We're all aware of this, right? You want to rent a pod, you want to, rent a truck. I just had my ducts cleaned on the house, Stacy, because if you guys didn't know, we're renovating the home and we are this close to being in, y'all. We are so close. And so much so that we had the ducts clean, the ducts cleaned in the house, not the quack quack, but the DUCTS in the house, because the air conditioner has not been on since 2 weeks after Milton. So it's been 6 months since the air conditioner's been on, right? And during that time, we've had walls ripped apart, walls moved, drywall dust. They came in and put the counters in, and then they cut out for the cooktop and everything. That was, I think, the most dusty thing I'd ever seen in the house. And so we had guys come and clean up the ducts. And I know I'm getting a little bit tangent here, but guess how much that. So I made 3 calls. I did the prudent thing, pulled it up on Google, looked it up, called 3 companies, and I got quotes ranging anywhere from $700 to $900 to clean the ducts. Okay. Now, I already had the house tested for mold and mildew, but it's been 6 months. And I wanted to make sure we were good. My wife has really gnarly seasonal allergies, and I want to make sure that Kate's good. I just wanted to make sure everything was good. We've done everything to that house, right, to make sure that it's good. So I called the duct guys in. The guy that we ended up bringing out, I was like, hey, man, just give me the worst case scenario so we don't have to play the game when the guy gets here. He's like, $900. Okay, cool. Not what I wanted to hear, but everybody else was between 7 and 9. So it is what it is. They could get there in a day. Awesome. Shows up at the house, Stacy. They come in. They're like, oh, well, they missed this, this, and this. And he gives me a new quote. Guess what that quote was for?
$1,500.
$1,900. And so when we say the high cost of moving, right, and the economic uncertainty, like I literally looked at them. I was like, dude, listen. I'm very straight. I gave the guy on the phone. I was like, hey, man, give me the worst case scenario, because if your guy shows up and that's not the case, I'm not going to move forward with you guys, because I just do not like that. Right? Mm-hmm. Happy to you giving me this number. I'm gonna bring you out, and if this is what has to happen, so be it. But there will be no more on top of this. Right? Guy walks in the door, tells me the number. I was like, here's the number I got. This is what I'm going. I got $900. Right? And then he's like, well, we can do it for 13. I was like, I got $900. Right? So they didn't end up doing the job. And then one of the guys that worked for them was like, I'll come back and do it after work. Right? So he came back, I paid him $1,000. But the point of what I'm getting at here, I'm going to get to, I know I was belaboring this right here, cost me $1,000 to get my ducts clean in my house. Right? Now, they look marvelous. I've got video. But everything is expensive. Right, Stacy? I mean, you grocery shop for the household, correct?
Yeah.
It's wild.
I know. You can't get out of anywhere under $150, and you have 2 little bags with you.
Yep.
Like, really?
Yep, exactly. So, I'm sharing this with you because this is the article from Redfin saying that, Florida and Texas are gaining residents at a much slower pace than they used to, which is true. It gives the data here, and I'm going to get to your guys' comments here in a second, so bear with me. And then it gives the reasons why. Again, some of this is subjective. The other parts are completely objective, so keep that in mind. But it gets into here. People used to move to Florida partly because they could get a good deal. And I've said this on our channel many times before. Florida used to be known as the land of milk and honey for very little money. Right? Stacy, you've been here 11 years now. Mm-hmm. Right? When you got here, like, this place was like such a good deal, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's changed, right? We got found out. Everybody else moved here. That's the reality of it. So this is a great article. I will tag the resources in the description after the video wraps up, so you guys can go look at these articles for yourself. But the thing I want to do is start with this, okay? Now I'm going to get to the comments, and now I'm going to get into the data after I get to your comments, okay, guys? Just kind of give you a heads up on that. So let's zoom out a little bit here and get to these comments as well. Graham says, good evening from Toronto, Canada. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Nick said about the snow earlier. We got that. Corey mentioned we're good there. Kevin's in the house. Good evening, sir. Good to see you. James from Michigan. What's up? Where are you in Michigan, James? I'd love to know, man. Zach, hi, I'm from Boston. You guys are a great team. Sky and Shannon have been great and got a property under contract last week. Can't wait to vacation soon. Thanks, Zach. I love it, dude.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and thanks for shouting out Sky and Charlene as well. That's fantastic. We've got a great team here, y'all. And like I was saying before, we'll start introducing you to more of them. But last week it was all Team Stacy. No one even wanted me here anyway. So y'all should ask the boss who she wants on next week. We'll figure that out together. We'll figure that out. Gusto, good evening. He says, the more blue that you can see, the higher the price. That is very true. Referring to the water is what he's referring to, which is great. Is my home flood-proof now? Well, no, because I live in Florida and nothing on this planet is flood-proof, unfortunately. And it, don't take my word for it. Look at the Appalachian Mountains last year. So that doesn't really exist. However, if the question is, did I do everything to mitigate that I can? Yeah, we're well on our way to having that dialed in. I'll share with you guys on an upcoming video the remainder of that project, because we're just starting the deep part of that project now, and I'll show everyone what we did to the property. I'll give everybody a complete rundown of I think Kate and I are going to cover budget and everything. So brace for that.
Or maybe you should brace for that.
Yeah, no. She's kept me in a loop. I've had several heart attacks already, Stacey. Several micro heart attacks. Those have been in place. Love that.
Yeah.
What's up, Vlad? You the man.
Ear to ear when you were walking through your kitchen. So
I was trying to be as happy as I possibly could. There's no doubt about it. Thank you for the contribution there. We appreciate you. Carol says, Juan, you must be so excited to get back in the house. I bet the RV's days are numbered. The RV's days are numbered. And yes, the disappointment on my wife's face when she knew we weren't getting in on Good Friday was like overwhelming, because my mother-in-law showed up on Monday. She showed up this Monday, and her and I are going to San Antonio for the weekend. We haven't been anywhere in 6 months without the kids, like the whole thing. So looking forward to that. And but you know what? We feel blessed to have had that, because not everybody had that opportunity. So, but yeah, we are ready to get out of that RV. Let me tell you. I don't know that I can convince her or the kids to get back in one, maybe ever again.
Ever.
Maybe ever. We shall see. We shall see for sure. Love it. Fabian, good evening, sir. Says, checking in from Chicago. Always good to catch you live. And it is good to be with you, sir. Appreciate that. Gusto says, duck, duck, goose. Love that. Trying, man. Duct. D-U-C-T. It's not the easiest thing to say. Holly, we spoke on the phone about a month ago. Awesome. That's good. And then Jane says, do you still flood insurance if you're not in the flood zone? This is a great question, Jane, and we've been covering on this with for the nominal expense for a flood policy to add to your home. At this point, I don't know why you wouldn't do it. Our quote for our flood policy in our house is $430 for the year. So I would, and I'm going to give you guys I know right now we're over 100 grand deep. I think we're 110 or 15 deep. And we still have, Stacy, the master bathroom and the closet to go. That's another 17. It's 17 in labor. So that's 25, right? Because that's basically how it's been. We're doing a coffee bar / bar / beverage station. Now I'm getting hoity-toity. This is not a requirement, by the way. Neither is tearing the master bath. Well, we went above and beyond, right? Like we're trying, like my wife has a Pinterest house at this point, and I couldn't be happier for her, right? Like today she made a post about a sink today, y'all. I don't understand any of it, but she was so excited. So yes, carry the flood policy. We got totally sidetracked on this, but carry the flood policy, because if you don't need it, if you're in a flood zone X, and just so everybody knows, the whole United States technically is in a floodplain. The way that they rate the floodplain is how many years is it likely before you have that once in a lifetime event? Is it 100 years? Is it 50? Is it 25? Is it 500? Is it 1,000? And when you're in flood zone X, like we are, it's that 500-year plus. They don't know when they know it's coming at some point. They just don't know when. So we're not required by a lender to cover, to have a flood policy in place. Now this is a personal thing, right? Like, and I've got the receipts. So if this does happen again because of a hurricane, here's the bills, man. Pay the check, right? Go about your day. But I don't think we should have that issue. Again, we were 43 feet above sea level. I know what happened. I'm building retaining walls, the whole thing, guys. I'm going to go crazy outside. So we'll get into that. All right. Let's get back into the data behind this. So we were talking about the article with Redfin, and again, this thought process of less people are moving to Florida, which is true. Okay, so let's just start with the reality there. But the next thing I want to get into is what is actually happening. So this is Redfin's website. I show you guys this pretty regularly. Usually once a month, I'll pull this up. This is today, United States. It shows the median sales price. But what I love about what's that?
There we go.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was supposed to say, I thought we had it up. Okay. And this shows on Redfin's website. It also has this migration map on it, which I love. Now, the thing I want everybody to take note of, right, is you've got article number 1 sounding like gloom and doom. Sounds like the worst thing that's ever happened, right? Texas and Florida are gaining residents, but at a much slower pace, which is true. And then you look over the migration map, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, this is the same company, right? And the only state on there that is red from people moving to it is what state? It's Florida, right? You with me? Stacy, you got me here? Hello? Is that my internet or yours? Y'all, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know that you guys are with me. Because I can see her quite clearly. All right, we'll keep rocking anyways. So, migration trends, Florida is still red on the map from Redfin specifically. So this is something to take note of. That way everybody knows what's going on there. All right. Perfect. All right, they can hear me. I just want to make sure. I mean, we got a little bit sidetracked there. So, okay.
I wasn't sure if that was you or me.
Yeah, it's okay. They got me, so we're good. I think it might be you a little bit. But it's okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry for the delay there, but this is what I wanted to talk about, right? Because you get these gloom and doom headlines, and again, there's truth here. The truth is there are less people moving to Florida and to Texas and to Tampa. That is 100% accurate, okay? The reality is we are still the #1 destination in the entire country when it comes to relocation. So that is the biggest thing that I want everybody to take away from this conversation when it comes to the United States. You look at states like California, they're ice cold. Right? New York, ice cold. Seattle, or I'm sorry, Washington, colder. Midwest, colder. And then you get to the Michigan, Ohio, that valley over there, that region. And then the Carolinas are still doing really well along with Tennessee. So this is something to take note of if you're considering moving those areas. Okay. Now I want to get into the other trends behind this. I shared this last week because I know we got into this topic a little bit. But this is the Tampa metro area population growth since 1950 all the way into 2025. So this is a great resource, Stacy, in terms of like, where are things going? Okay. And the current metro population of Tampa is 3,040,000 people. It's an increase of 1% from 2024. If you go back to 2024, the increase was 1.07%, 1.9%, 1.17%. So these numbers look astronomically large when you break them out, but from a percentage perspective, they're just not that big. And then when you look at like the previous history, okay, this green line is the annual change dating back to 1950. And I found this fascinating, Stacy. Back in the 50s, and I'm pretty sure this is when air conditioner became a thing. This was definitely when they started building the block homes, right? So like a lot of the block homes, especially here on the coast, Clearwater, St. Petersburg, there's a lot of 50s and 60s bungalow style homes that they're call them ramblers. Actually, they're single story ranches, right? If you look on Zillow, guys, you can see them all the time. But we had 8% growth in a year. Now, 8% when your population was only 1 million or 600,000, right, is still a big jump in a percentage perspective. But as you look at this over time, it's changed. In 1960, they had this huge drop down to 3% annually, then back up into the fours. And then since the 80s, it's been hovering. It started at 2%. Then in the 90s, it got down to 1%. And it's just been slowly declining over time. Okay. Now, the percentage is declining, but the amount of people here has grown during the same time period too. And that's the blue line, the population, right? So if you look at where we were just back to, let's go to the crash. So 2009, there was 22,371,000 people here. Okay. 2,371,000. And what did the number say this year? 3 million. That's an increase of 700,000 people, right? Essentially over a 12-year period. That's a pretty big growth. There's a lot going on, right? So I'm sharing this with everybody because we still see this growth, okay? And I'll give you this last share here, okay? Because people still ask us, why are people still moving there? This is my calendar. So if you guys have scheduled a Zoom call with me and Stacy or me and the team, any of us, this is the back end of that shows me what's going on every single month, okay? May, June are our biggest months here on my team for the last 3 years in terms of new home buyers relocating to the area. It's been steady state. And you can see the numbers here. Over the last 30 days, we've stayed on pace. Even with all the craziness going on economically, we had the same exact outcome as we did the month before. And then we actually sat 9 more appointments. We were up 20% in our appointments with meeting you guys via Zoom. Okay. And then we had two meetings get rescheduled. Those are some good numbers. So why I'm sharing this is it's evidence. It's also anecdotal because what we do might be different than everybody else's lifestyle. But the thing that I know about our clients typically, Stacy, is we serve a lot of clients who choose to move or get to move, right? They're lifestyle focused. We do have relocation for work. That is definitely part of our business. And but what we often see is a majority of our clients, the people who decide to call us because of YouTube or for any other reason, it's a get to, like, hey, I've got a job offer. I don't have to take it, but we've been thinking about moving to Florida. Now's a great time. Or we're retiring. We've been planning on doing this our whole life. Or flat out, they both work from home. They own a business and they're able to move anywhere they want and they're choosing lifestyle. So this is what we're seeing on a regular basis. Okay. So I want to share this with everybody. Are there areas that are on sale? Absolutely. You know, we don't have last month's numbers yet. They're going to come this week. They'll actually be out tomorrow, I think Wednesday or Thursday of this week. We'll get the sales data from last month. And I've shared why that takes a little bit longer is because not every county records everything at a lightning speed. Government doesn't always move fast, and you know, builders don't always report their numbers right away. So they wait for this data to shake out about 2 weeks. They correlate it all, and then they share it with us. That way we can share it back with you guys. So you're going to see those numbers come out the next couple of days. And just from what we're seeing here, the days on market are going up. There's more downward pressure on pricing. You know, I see sales opportunities, but then I also see communities that are still up, right? Wesley Chapel's up, Odessa's up, West Chase is up, right? But certain housing types are down. And so these are the things that you're going to want to watch for. We got great incentives from builders out there. So if you're considering making that move, these guys are doing a lot. I mean, we have a 3.99% interest rate from D.R. Horton being offered right now. 3.99. It's ridiculous, right? So they're hot to trot on trying to get people in houses. And we've talked incentives till we're blue in the face for sure. You know, when we work on this, but definitely think that we need to dig into that a little bit. What did Jane say? She says, Miss Stacy, we need to add that house to not be in a flood zone. Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah. So you sent her some info, right?
Yes. Yep. She's on a search. So we've kind of changed course a little bit. So don't worry. I'm not going to put you in a flood zone.
Yeah, absolutely. We try very hard to make sure you guys are aware of what's going on there. Carol says, my poor state, lots of folks leaving California. Yeah, absolutely. Jane says, I'm putting I think she says, my home in the market this June. Can you give some info to help sell my house quicker? And yeah, so the answer to that, Jane, is yes. Reach out to Stacy. We'll make a connection with you. Happy to help on that end. Brian says, T-minus 4 weeks, baby. Sorry I'm late, everyone. Happy Taco Tampa Talk Tuesday. That is a mouthful, bro. To get that out. I love it. All right. Nick says, Stacy, he's got a great question for you. What are some of your favorite home builders? And before we get into this, just so you guys know, Stacy built her own home. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
Well, she didn't build it with her own hands. She selected a builder who built the home for her, but she built a home. And we call her the new construction queen on our team because I don't know, 80% of your sales last year were all new construction.
Construction,
right?
yeah.
It's more of a blend this year. She's more of a 50-50, but she knows the game. So Stacy, I think this is a wonderful question. And if anybody should give this insight, it should be you for sure.
Yep. Well, some of my personal favorites, I think at the top there's Taylor Morrison. I really like them because I feel like they do a great job giving you different floor plans. They all don't look the same. And they do a very nice job, give you lots of interior options as well. So they're at the top of my list, along with Homes by West Bay. They are a really, really nice builder, nice quality, and have had a great experience with them. Let's see, Pulte. I've been impressed with Pulte as well. They also give you a lot of options and the quality. And more importantly, I think the customer service, and I mean, that makes or breaks the whole situation, the whole experience. And so I've had great experiences with all three of those builders, for sure. So I would definitely start with those three.
Those are great ones. And I find it fascinating that the answer to this was not on the list. Go ahead and share.
And I built with MI Homes. So yes, I do like MI Homes as well too. But I ended up choosing MI just because I like this lot. So I knew it was a view that I couldn't find anywhere in Wesley Chapel. So honestly, I really wanted Taylor Morrison over in River Landing. That was my favorite neighborhood. Yeah. But I compromised for the lot. So, but I liked, it was a great experience. I had no complaints with MI at all.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't hear her complain once, so that says a lot. No, not that she's a complainer, but she didn't complain. That's the point, right? Like, we have challenges with, building a home is a process, y'all. There's a lot of people involved. All it takes is one person to show up and have a bad day. Then something's got to be taken care of. And like at the end of the day, most of the builders, if not all of the builders, in all fairness, will get the job done. Mm-hmm. How they get to the job done, this is where the rubber hits the road and the things feel a lot different. That, some of these guys are great at building homes, but like Stacy said, they're terrible at customer service. And I mean, not like bad. I'm talking about like terrible, like make you want to like, why would I'm never going to do this again on purpose. Right. Yeah. No matter how much I love this home. And that's unfortunate, that's there, but it's the reality. So I think it's a great share. And I love the fact that you gave them, an honest feedback. She didn't put the one that she built with as number one. I love that about our team. And, we're always going to shoot it straight, and we're very similar in that respect. So thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that as always.
Yeah. And also I want to mention real quick too, that a builder that has construction managers, like more than one, that go into your house multiple times, like 100 times, because every time you walk into the house, you're going to find something different. So the more eyes you get on, that walk through your house, the better. So I really like the builders that have more than one construction manager that goes through, because they can catch different things.
Absolutely.
Just a side tidbit there.
That's a great question, Nick. And Nick says, thank you, Stacy. You mentioned a home builder named Pulte. Am I spelling that right? Pulte.
Yeah.
That's how it's spelled. Pulte. Great. They're solid builder. Nationwide. They do a good job. That brand is what we consider a semi-custom. So you're able to do some picks and finishes and things like that. James, my man, Holly, Michigan, got you now. Now I remember. Yeah. And sorry, dude. We have a lot of conversations. So like, I need them rebuilt in my mind, unless I have like your profile up, because then I can just be like, oh yeah, this is where I was in the conversation. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Brian says, looking to move from Maine, touring Lakewood Ranch next month. Pros and cons of spec homes versus building from the ground up. Great question, Stacey. Why don't you take this?
Yeah, so spec homes are quick move-in homes. Hands down, you're going to get the best deal. If you're looking for a deal, the quick move-ins are the way to go, because the builder is giving you incentives, which are, flex cash or
Stacy's internet gave up. Yeah, we lost you there for a second. You're back.
Sorry. Where do you
flex cash?
Flex cash. So those incentives is flex cash. So you can use them to either use as closing costs, you can use them to buy down your rate, or and some builders will let you take, if you have anything left over, they'll let you take it off the purchase price of your home. And if they're being really aggressive, they're buying down the rate for you on top of giving you that cash. So you got a lot of flexibility there. And the builders have learned that when they do the quick move-in homes, they're picking the interior finishes that are the most common choices that people are picking. So you're not going to get something god-awful, that you're gonna have to change later. I mean, they are nice finishes.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the other, pro on the other side is like, you get to pick everything that you want. Like, that's a pro. The con is the time. If you're going to contract build and go pick, dirt. I mean, even the fastest builders right now on a semi-custom are what, 8 to 10 months, Stacy?
Yeah, I say at least 9.
Yeah. So that's a fast end, and we're coming into hurricane season, y'all, and that may not affect us at all. But the reality is, if we're going to see disruptions in supply chain and things like that, it's typically during this season where we can have some slowdowns. It's our rainy season. They're not going to work every day like they do in the winter. So like, things just tend to run a little bit slower during the summer months. It's also hot, right? So like, you have a few things working there. So it might typically we see longer times from start here. So there's great options for both. Like Stacy said, the deals are really hard to pass up right now that they're throwing your way, especially on the custom level, or I'm sorry, the semi-custom level. They're throwing $60,000, $100,000 design choices at you. Like, man, they make it really sweet. But if you want the lot,
right. And you can get lucky and walk in on a home that fell out of contract, like we talked about last week. There was a house with a pool fell out of contract, so people are going to get a killer deal on that one, and that's still on the market, believe it or not.
It's wild. That's wild.
And if you're going to Lakewood Ranch, shoot me a message, because they do a really great job. They have a welcome center there, and I can schedule an appointment for you to meet with someone, and they'll like give you the whole, rundown of Lakewood Ranch. It's really nice. They do a good job there.
And I'll put our contact info in the chat there, because I always forget to put the banner up because I'm a bad boy, but there it is. You guys, you can just reach out to us. Happy to make those connections for you. Get back into this. And you mentioned pools. So speaking of pools, by the way, Jane said,
Pool party will probably be in September. Yeah.
Pool permit issue. Dang it. Those pesky permit issues are a challenge always. For sure. All right. Vanessa says, I'm planning to move to Tampa within the next few months from New York. How accurate are the taxes with new construction? Great question. This is
they're not.
This is the one I know. This is the one that gets everybody in trouble. All right. So Stacy will walk you guys through this because she's great at handling this for our clients. Listen, y'all. The sales team in the builder's office is there to do one thing. They're there to sell you a house. When you walk in the door, they're going to figure out how to make that number work. Okay. And unfortunately, they can leave things off your monthly payment, like accurate taxes. And if you got a great lender, that's usually not a problem. But when you're using the builder's lender, and I'm not saying that they're doing things unscrupulous, I'm just letting you know that I'm not the only one who's seen this, right? The reason this question is being asked is because Vanessa probably heard a story of someone who has had this challenge, right? They went into the builder's office, Stacy, right? They either had an agent who didn't know what they were doing or they were unrepresented. The builder said, I'm happy to get you this property. I can get you in here for $2,500 a month or whatever the number was, right? And they ran the entire mortgage based upon the tax number of that vacant land. And then the next year, because the state of Florida we pay taxes in ad valorem, which means a year in arrears. Okay. So in November, that person got their new tax bill from there. If it's a $500,000 house, you're going to multiply that number by about 1.75%. And that's going to get you really close to what the number should have been since day one. And then what happened to that individual was now they had a tax deficit of about $9,000 they needed to make up. And their monthly payment is going to adjust to take into account the $900 that needs to be paid next month. So it's a huge, huge mistake. And again, I'm not in those offices. I don't know what's happening. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it keeps happening and I don't understand why. Because if you understand that your taxes are going to cost you roughly 1.7%, 1.75% of the appraised value, which if you purchase it at $500,000, guess what they're going to assess it at? They're going to assess it at $500,000, right? So that's how you wrap your mind around it. Now, I'm giving you a conservative number, meaning the worst case scenario. It might be a little bit better than that, but if you just kind of wrap your mind around 1.75%, it depends on where you live. The newer developments, we see somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8. So we just say 1.75. In the established communities, you can be as low as 1.3 to 1.4%. Okay, but it's best if you just take worst case scenario and apply it to your situation. That way you're not surprised because there's no reason that stuff should happen. None. Right? That's just people. I'm not going to say someone made a mistake. Right? And it's not okay. So Vanessa, if you would like assistance on this, please feel free to reach out to us. Information's on the screen. You can schedule time directly. Just put a note in there that you want to meet with Stacy, and I'll make sure we make that connection for you because she will make sure you get this right. This is her game, y'all. This is her game. And she said yes. So she must. So you either heard it, saw it, something of that line situation, because this happens all the time. All right, it happens all the time. If you look in the comments, Stacy, on our new construction stuff, they're like, yeah, and so you get the tax bill next year. I'm like, that should not be happening to you. Right. That should not be happening to you. You've got to be dialed in on this stuff, y'all. So make sure that you got somebody there to protect you. Okay. Carol says Stacy made sure that we understood the property taxes. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us, Carol. We appreciate that. This matters, man. I'm telling you right now, like, I know that not everybody loves having to have a real estate professional. I get it. I don't want to have a mortgage. I don't want to have insurance. I understand all those things. I don't want any of those things either. Right. But I also don't want to be taken advantage of. All right. And I don't want to make mistakes. I am living proof, y'all. right? Out of all of my clients, I've moved over 100 families to Tampa Bay, and none of them flooded. But this guy did, right? And was it out of my control? For sure, right? But what did I learn? I learned another lesson. It's not just about the elevation of my house. It's also about the elevation of my neighbors, right? So now when I looking at clients, I'm like, oh, let's pull up the county map and see where the neighbors are positioned, right? So like these are the things that you can overlook that just get you in trouble. But if you have resources and you have people on your side, they're there to help you through that process. So grateful to be able to serve you guys. Thank you for that. And Vanessa said thank you. And Stacey bounced out again. She's struggling on this, but love the questions, y'all. These questions for us are what drive us to keep doing this. I'm telling you right now, your connection, your comments, when we show up on a Zoom call with you guys live, and it's like, Stacey and I were just talking about this week, how much we enjoy that. Like we're having, we could talk to some of you for months before you schedule a call with us because you're just not ready or whatever, right? And then all of a sudden we show up on a Zoom call and it's like we're all friends, it's like, it's one of the coolest experiences. And we just really appreciate you guys trusting us. I can't stress that enough. I know I say it on these calls, but I don't want that to ever feel like it's not genuine because we're blessed beyond our wildest belief, right? Like I said, I know that the overall market is slowing down, but I showed you evidence like our market's not slowing down. All right. You guys are amazing. And we genuinely care. Right. So that's the big thing I hope that you guys take away from what we do. We get to sell real estate. We don't have to. And a lot of our clients get to move to Tampa. They don't have to. And that's awesome. It works out really well when you got that mindset. We're very community focused. We want to make sure you guys nail it the first time. Jane says, how do they calculate if the land was paid in cash, the house was being built on the construction? Do they combine it? Yeah. So you have what's known as the real value of the property and the land value. I should pull it up on, you know what? Let me jump into the tax records really quick, Stacey, while we do this. And then let me see if we can pull some stuff up, Jane. I'll show you the breakdown on the back end from what we see in the county records. And of course, each county, I got logged out. Each county is a little bit different, but we'll, Jane, next week, I'll pull this up. Okay. I'll make sure we've got it to go live and show you guys how it's broke down. But they take the land value along with the house, and then they form a real value off that. But what I'll say is this, it's usually pretty darn close to what we would consider market value. Isn't that fair to say, Stacey? I mean, rarely ever do I look at a property and like go, nope, that's off of base. But the big change is, as you're probably well aware, Jane, the longer you own something, the more that number gets off base. Because here in Florida, they can only raise your taxes as 3% max annually, or the level of inflation, whichever is lower. So if you bought a house 10 years ago, your taxes are going to be super low today versus what they would be for a new buyer, right? But if you're spending $300,000 for a piece of land and building essentially what is a $1 million house afterwards, you can expect to see that tax bill be pretty darn accurate. They're pretty good at it, right? And every county is a little bit different. You're going to be at Pasco, right? She's in Land O'Lakes.
Yeah, she's Pasco.
Yeah, Pasco knows what $1.5 million house looks like, or a $2.5 million house looks like. They're pretty dialed in. I'd love to sit here and tell you they're only going to assess you for $300,000, but I don't want you to be one of those people, Jane. It gets a big old tax bill the following year. But these are great questions, y'all. We appreciate you guys bringing them. Stacey's got a whole thing on parish. We're not going to get into that tonight. We'll save that for next Tuesday. So we can get back with you guys. And again, if you want to reach out to us, if you have questions, that's what that consultation is for. We offer an hour of our time to meet with you and really unpack what it's like living in the area, what communities make the most sense based upon the lifestyle that you're describing to us. Talk about the pitfalls of owning Florida real estate, the challenges that you can face, how to work around them and navigate through them so you don't put yourself in harm's way. We always say we're here to make sure that you don't step on landmines, right? And having your tax bill go up that high a year later, that's a landmine, y'all. That's a landmine. We gotta stop that stuff. All right. We definitely do not need that happening to any of our clients. That's for sure. Vanessa says, regarding HOA and CDDs, how high can they get during the year? This is a great question. Your CDD fees are on a schedule. Okay, so you'll see if you're going to get an annual increase, there's two portions of this, and we've covered this a few times, but this is a great question. The CDD fee has two separate components, usually. Not always. I don't want to give an absolute here, but a majority of the time, it's made up of two components, right, Stacy? What are those two components?
There is the bond portion that you're repaying the county that the builder took out.
Yep.
And then there's a maintenance. Right. It's a loan.
Yep.
And then there's a maintenance section.
Yes.
Or portion.
Yep. So that maintenance portion is the one that can have that variability. The loan is already at a specific interest rate that you will be paying back. Typically, they're 30 years. They can be 15, 10, whatever, but we usually see those CDD fees at 30 years. So that portion is fixed. It's a fixed rate loan. The variable is the maintenance side of it. Now, they don't usually spring that on you in the middle of the year. It's when you have your annual renewal, they're saying, okay, we need to go up X because maintenance went up Y. Okay, that's where it comes from, right? Stacy, you're coming up. You just had, well, you close in November. You won't get your tax bill until next November. Stacy, I'll let you know how that how that went over in Epperson, right? Because she's got one of the biggest amenities in the entire county, right? So if anybody's going to see a big adjustment, it's most likely to be like a place like Stacy. Now, HOAs, same thing there. So they're covering maintenance usually, right? Improvements typically. Improvements have to be pre-planned and voted on by the board, right? So you're part of that association. You guys would go vote. If somebody asks to spend your money, they got to bring it to you. Okay. If something has to be repaired in a specific neighborhood, that's a different situation. That's where those fees can go up. Insurance on common areas like playgrounds and those types of things, that's covered by HOAs. Right. So those are the things you got to kind of look out for. There's a lot of benefits to being in an HOA, and then there are some cons. The thing that I recommend, and I put that on this week's video, Vanessa, is like, make sure you get a copy of the bylaws so you can read through them. You have the ability to due diligence, and that's a great way to do it. My favorite way is to shove all of that 80 pages of documentation into ChatGPT and ask it the important questions to me. And then ask it to sort its cited sources, because then it will pull up the actual like paragraph where that's cited at, and then you can really kind of dig into it. It's a nice little cheat sheet rather than having to go deep, because some of the stuff I don't care about. Great, I can't put this type of plan in there, or I can't. Who cares? To me, that doesn't matter. It may matter to you, right? But to me, I want to know big things like when are you going to start complaining about the trash can being outside? Is it 4 hours? Do I get a grace period? That's the kind of stuff I don't want to do. I don't want somebody on my porch complaining that I haven't had my trash cans weren't in by 9 a.m. and it's 10. Right? Like, I don't want that life. So these are the things you want to look for. Okay. Great question. Vanessa's got good questions. We will not have property tax because my husband. Oh, perfect. That's right. You mentioned that, Jane. So yeah. Congratulations, hallelujah. This is one of the biggest benefits in and you know, I want to celebrate because it's such a win, but I also recognize it comes at a cost, right? Someone served us, and if this is the minimum benefit that they get, I'm happy. Like we talked about, I don't want to pay property taxes, but if I'm paying taxes for our veterans, then at least it's going somewhere good. Right. So thank you for your family service. And Jane did tell us that before, so we appreciate that. You are welcome, Vanessa. Like I said, reach out to us. We're here to help. We love what we do. Stacy, any final thoughts before we wrap up this evening?
I just love Tuesday nights when the community comes together, and like you said, when they do schedule Zoom calls and we're fortunate enough to get on that call with them, I feel like we already know each other. Yeah, because we've been meeting for weeks before.
Yes, we have. And y'all, if you ever reach out to us and we don't get back right away, couple things. we do have emails that will go to spam. That's never intentional. Sometimes you DM us on Instagram. You know, our handles are up there. Usually during the conversation here. You know, that's Stacy's Instagram handle is at stacy.amen.realtor. Mine is at juan.alcalá.realtor. There's a special spam box in Instagram too that I've found people stuff in later. So please don't take that. I promise you, I try to get to every single message. I do, as long as I see it. The best way to do it is reach out via text message, which is the number on the screen. But the absolute best way to connect with us is to schedule a time in our calendar, because we live and die by that thing. So if you schedule that time, we'll be on the other end, right? You can guarantee that we'll be there. Even if I fall out, Stacy's going to be there, right? And vice versa. So, you know, you got that in your back pocket. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that whenever it's ready. Vanessa had one last question. She said, will this be reposted? I want to show this to my husband. Yes, of course, Vanessa. If you go to our channel, you can see all of our past live streams and all of the videos that we release every single Saturday. But this will be, I think YouTube usually takes about an hour to post this back up or something along those lines. But absolutely. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help. But yeah, love spending time with you guys. You're amazing as always. Stacy, go out
and live that Tampa life.
We'll see you guys. Have a great weekend.